Hello, and welcome to the Wordsmith Forge Christian Fiction Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Baines, and this is where Christian authors come to share their stories, and where readers discover voices worth reading. Today's guest is a man with a powerful testimony and a bold mission. Author J.A. Webb joins me to talk about his journey from atheism to faith and how that transformation fuels his passion for writing gritty, thought-provoking Christian fiction, especially stories that speak to men. Webb crafts thrilling narratives that don't just entertain, they challenge, inspire, and point towards deeper truth. We'll talk about the role of culture in shaping our stories, the highs and lows of the writing life, and why Christian fiction must be both honest and engaging to make an impact. If you're looking for fiction that doesn't flinch and a conversation that digs deep, you're in the right place. So stay with us, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and share this episode with someone who loves bold, redemptive storytelling. Let's get to it. Here's my conversation with J.A. Webb. Well, J.A. Webb, we are so happy that you joined us here on the Wordsmith Forge Christian Fiction Podcast. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Well, hi, Mike, and thanks for having me here, and thanks so much for all the hard work you do preparing and making this podcast available. It's a real service to the community. I'm J.A. Webb. I'm an author. I write thrilling Christian fiction for Christian men. That's who I am, and that's what I do.
So, where are you located, Jeff?
I'm located in northwest Iowa. If you've ever flown across the country and noticed that the lights on the ground start disappearing and suddenly the ground is all dark, that's the area that I live in. That's where I am. I see.
Is it the flat cornfields that Iowa is noted for?
Yeah, sure is. Yep. There are other parts of the states the state of Iowa that doesn't look like this, but we're on the prairie, and there's absolutely no doubt about it. I'm in an old farmhouse. My office is in an old bedroom in an old farmhouse, and I'm looking out my window, and I'm up on a little bit of a rise, and I can see about 10 miles, and there's nothing but cornfields, flat and rolling for the next 10 miles. So,
well, you can prepare yourself when you see a storm coming in.
Yeah, you really can see the storms coming from a long ways. We watch storms developing and dropping hail 50 miles away from where we are. It's a big sky.
Yes. I have spent a little time in Iowa, and I really like the state, and I think there's nothing better than the smell of corn when it's starting to tassel.
Mm-hmm.
There's an old song called Black Land Farmer. Said, love to smell the sweet breeze blowing through the corn. Lord, you sure done me right with my black land farm.
Well, this is the country for black land, that's for sure. It is black, black, black up here.
Have you always lived there?
I have, yeah. My family's from here, and aside from a few detours in other spots of the world as I was a young man, I spent most of my life here. Because family's here, and I wanted to stay close to family.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's great. Around where you live, is there some place that you like to go to refresh your soul and kind of recharge your batteries?
Well, I'm really blessed because about 25 years ago, my wife and I bought a little 4-acre farmstead. Oh. And this is where I go to refresh. I step outside my backyard. I sit on my back porch, and my nearest neighbor's a mile away. It's incredibly restful and incredibly it's a beautiful thing to just be in the middle of nature and God's creation and not be surrounded by concrete and brick. So this is my place.
Do you have any farm animals?
We do, yeah. My wife is the one who does most of the work with the animals. She's got a real heart for animals. Mm-hmm. Just loves them to death. I do the heavy lifting, and she does the majority of the real work. But, we've got ponies. We have had sheep. Got a little pet pig that will never be eaten. We've got chickens and guineas. We've had geese. We've got quail. Lots of cats. A couple dogs. Yeah. Surrounded by life.
Sounds like a farmstead to me.
It is. Yeah. But most of what we eat are the eggs and the garden. The animals are friends. They're not food. we found that out early on when we tried to butcher our first couple of animals, and it didn't go well.
I can imagine. When we lived in California, a friend of ours that raised sheep sold us a lamb, and I took my 2 daughters with me. They were very young, and of course we'd had a lot of lamb and we enjoyed it. So this is the first time we'd bought one and was going to have it butchered. And my youngest daughter was standing in the seat looking through the back window of the pickup there, kind of crying. I said, "Hon, we can take it back." And she sniffled and said, "No, it's all right." So I guess we're carnivores at heart.
Oh, we're carnivores too, but when you bottle feed a baby lamb and then raise it up, it's no longer a meal; it's a friend. Right?
Yeah. You can't look in those eyes and slit its throat at the same time.
Nope. And my wife's heart is just way too soft for the animals for that to work out.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, Jeff, what are your 3 favorite songs?
I'm going to mention 3 songs that have remained in my mind because they've had such an impact. But I'm going to preface it by saying that I spent decades of my adult life as an atheist. So the music I was listening to wasn't always of an appropriate worldview for a Christian, because I wasn't a Christian. I was a full-blown atheist. And of the 3 songs, 2 of them are by a band called Pink Floyd. One is called Comfortably Numb, and one is Wish You Were Here. Yeah. Both very, very impactful songs. And the third is one that I've discovered after I was saved. It's Carrie Job's Revelation song. That's one that just closes my throat and starts the tears every time I hear it. I love singing it, but I can rarely get through the chorus.
Carrie Job is one of my favorites also. What about movies? What are 3 of your favorite movies?
And again, I have a lot of favorite movies, but there are 3 that really had lasting impact and stayed in my mind. One of them is The Hunt for Red October. One is The Last of the Mohicans. And then, of course, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm sure you can see a theme there.
Yeah, I can. And it expands too, because you're probably the 4th author that has said that The Hunt for Red October was one of their favorite movies as well.
And that's kind of surprising. It's not a well-remembered movie at this point, I don't think. But I think those movies all speak to things that resonate in a man's heart. So I'm not surprised other authors remembered that. It's a story of a valiant struggle against the forces of evil, right? And the battle for good to overcome evil. And all 3 of those movies that I mentioned, you can probably draw some themes of the light overcoming the darkness and a battle against the forces of evil, and of heroism, and of bravery, and of self-sacrifice. And I think those are all things that resonate for guys. Guys who by nature want to be protectors, right? And want to defend the innocent and fight for the good.
And somehow I'm sure that should lead us into a discussion about atheists, because we are in a struggle, good over evil, and I want to be careful how I portray an atheist, any atheist, because God created them. They're people, and it's just the belief system. And
like me, many of them are we're all born with this. Because of our separation from God, we're all born with this aching void in our souls, right? Right. And many atheists are going to find God. I mean, whether they realize it or not, they're seeking. Most are trying to fill that aching hole with worldly things, but
right.
You follow that road to its end, and it's all dissipation, and it's pointless. It's not going to fill that void. So a lot of people who call themselves atheists are really seekers, and they just don't even know it.
I would agree, and I think the ones that kick against the goads, kick against the gospel the most, are the ones that are going to come to saving grace first.
Yeah. Well, I would be a pattern of that, yeah.
Yeah. So, could you tell us more about your walk with Christ and how this all developed?
Well, it took decades. I was in grade school when I turned my back on God. I'm a child of the 60s, and I watched the Apollo missions and was just so inspired by the Apollo missions that I wanted to be an astronaut. Was absolutely convinced I was going to be an astronaut. Incidentally, one of the other things I really thought would be cool would be to be a writer, but I didn't think I could do that. I thought I could go to the moon. I didn't think I could ever write, but here I am. I've never been to the moon, but I'm writing. But I was in grade school, and because I wanted to do that with my life, I read a lot of science. I was just fascinated by science fiction, speculative fiction, and in reading the science and in studying the science, in grade school, I began to realize that there was a conflict between what I was being taught by science and what the Bible said.
Yeah,
they did not mesh. The science, especially at that time, was very humanistic, materialistic. Teaching evolution, and that literally would teach that the Bible was just mythology, just like Greek mythology or Roman mythology. Yeah. It was just a mythology, not truth, that science was truth. And then I'd go to Sunday school, and it would be told something different. And I remember when we were in Genesis in Sunday school, studying the creation. And, of course, that's one of the primary pivots. Do you believe God's story of creation, or do you believe science's story of creation? And I asked the question when I was in Sunday school, and unfortunately, back in those days, apologetics is not something that a Sunday school teacher would have been well trained in. It wasn't a popular subject. People weren't real aware of it, and so there weren't really very many good answers. And because the church didn't provide good answers, but science said they had solid answers, I said, well, I'm following the science then, which meant that, and they both could not, coexist. It had to be a one or another choice, the way that they were presented. So I chose to turn my back on God and didn't look back for decades. But as I said, a minute ago, there's still that aching hole in your heart, that void that only God can fill. And as an atheist, I tried to fill it with worldly things, constantly pursuing things that I was certain that were going to fill that aching need, that absence, that void, only to find that none of them did, and many of them just brought more heartache.
Yeah.
The hedonistic pursuits of the world. So over the decades, I was searching, and later on in my adult life, knew I was searching for something, knew I was searching for peace, I was searching for truth, I was searching for answers, searching for what was going to, complete me. And the real pivot came after my first couple of children were born. I returned to college to finish another degree. And I had been in engineering school, my first round in college, but a lot of my credits wouldn't transfer. And the new college wanted me to take another science or math credits. I took a physics class. Physics is pretty easy. But my first round in college, I really didn't like math. I did it because I had to do it, but I didn't love it. This physics class was taught by a man who was a poet. He had a poet's soul. And all of a sudden, math wasn't just boring. It was a language that described an underlying reality. And that reality made sense, and everything worked together. There was a poetry to that.
Wow.
Everything worked the way you could sense that it needed to, which suddenly opened my eyes to the fact that this is a design, and it was created by a designer. So for the first time in my life, as an adult with children, I said, well, maybe there is a God.
Wow.
Who that God was, I had no idea. Where to find him, I had no idea. And so we still had years of search, looking in all the wrong places, before I finally picked up my Bible again and started reading. And, of course, the Word of God doesn't return void. And once I started reading, God got a hold of me, and the rest was history. I found my Creator, and I found my Savior.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
I'm so glad
That's how God works, right?
I'm glad that we're able to capture that and we can share it with other people, because I think it's very powerful.
Yeah.
It speaks of reality. A lot of people wind up in the boat that you have been in and are in.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, yeah, and a lot of what I write, I'm writing with that person in mind. I'm writing to thrill the Christian, but my real desire is to light a fire in the heart of a seeker or in the lost.
Yeah, seeker. That'd be a good name for a series, wouldn't it?
It'd be.
Oh,
but it's already taken.
So, I'm not quite ready to get into the books, but that was just irresistible. Your book 1, Fragments, the Seeker series, and book 2, Inheritance, the Seeker series. So we'll talk about that in a moment again.
Sure.
I'm interested in, so what sparked your calling to write Christian fiction? I guess you could have gone ahead and become a Christian astronaut.
Well, at that age, it was a little too late. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, I had always played with writing. In high school, I wrote song lyrics. I was a musician. I wrote song lyrics and played with poetry and that kind of thing. And over the course of my life, had started writing novels a few times, but nothing ever really clicked. It was just, it was hollow. There was nothing there. And strangely enough, it was Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings that was finally one of the impetuses that pushed me over the edge. One winter, I was feeling a little under the weather, so I binged the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and at the end I was like, now what else is there? And the answer was, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. And why is there nothing else? And as I grew up, I read all the classic science fiction. And at the time, as an atheist, I loved it. But when I go back to it now, it's not as thrilling because the worldview is so cringy. As a Christian now, seeing with the eyes of, informed by the Holy Spirit and informed by the Word of God, I go back to the stories that I loved as a young man, and I don't love them so much because the worldview is so broken.
Yeah.
So I asked myself, where are the Christian, the modern Christian classics? Who's writing the Christian Ayn Rand and the Christian the Christian Brandon Sanderson books, or the Christian George R.R. Martin fantasy? I mean, those are all great stories, but where are the Christians writing these stories? Because I want something like that. My heart hungers for great stories like that. And most of the great stuff out there is not Christian. You pick up a book, the cover looks great, but you wonder what kind of sewage you're going to step into when you open the cover, right? The worldview's
right.
So why are Christians not filling the world with great stories?
Yeah.
So those are the questions that I was asking myself at that time after I finished The Lord of the Rings again. I was hungering for something that there was not enough of.
Right.
And a guy named Steve Dace has a radio program. I don't know if you've listened to him.
I have not.
On the Blaze Radio Network. He's an evangelical from Iowa. He started out in Des Moines, and now he's got a national platform. Does a great podcast. He talks about worldview and politics and religion. It's very, very deep thinking discussions. And he had just written a book called Nefarious, which was actually made into a movie called The Nefarious Plot. And at the time that he was working on that, he put out a challenge. He's like, if Christians want the culture to change, Christians have to engage with the culture. If you want the culture to change, you need to be engaging with the culture, and the most powerful way to engage with culture is the power of story. Yeah. And, between the dearth of great fiction, especially for Christian guys, I mean, there's a lot of Christian fiction out there, but most of it, romance, Amish romance, those kinds of things, there's nothing wrong with it. It's wonderful stuff for the people who it is written for, right?
And
but it's not written for me. It's not written to me or for me. Whereas the stuff that's written to you and to me and for me, there's just not enough. So those are the things that that were the impetus, and I finally sat down and began to write again. But unlike other times, suddenly there's a story in my heart that God must have had me to tell, because it just flowed, and the ideas haven't stopped. If I could do nothing but write, there's so much that I could write, but we all have to make a living, so we write when we can.
Yeah. But it's what you described is kind of why I have a podcast, is because I went to the podcasters looking to hawk my books, and all I found were women hosts talking to women writing about romance.
Right. And is there anything wrong with that? No, but that's not, but you and I have a desire, and you and I have a need and a thirst, and the well is not very deep. There's a dearth of great stuff for us. So I was going to ask you why you started the podcast, because
that's why. No, I wanted to be on one, and I couldn't find one, so started one.
That's great.
Well, it's a good excuse not to write a third book. Because this keeps me so busy. Once you start writing, and then once you start publishing and doing other things, time becomes more and more valuable, doesn't it? And I am a great procrastinator. I'm trying to get past that. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I bought a book titled "Stop Procrastinating Now." Mm-hmm. I'm going to read that book
someday.
And I'll be better. So, do you have a biblical truth or a passage that anchors your books, your series?
Yeah, I do. Psalm 96:3, declare his glory among the nations, his wonders amongst all the people.
Yeah.
So that's what we're sent to do, right?
Yes.
It's the Great Commission, declare his glory and expose his truth to more people.
Yeah, I use Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, let your light shine before others. Mm-hmm. I think we're called to share the good news. And I probably say this too often on podcasts, but can you imagine someone that feels like they're just full of joy, just bubbling over with joy, and they never tell anybody?
No.
Joy is not complete until you share it.
That's right.
So that's where Christian fiction authors are at. I've got a story in me, and I'm here to share it. And so hopefully the podcast will help that. I want your
wonderful
books to be shared. So,
well, thank you for doing it, because I know how much work it is.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. I know many of our listeners or viewers are looking for books that reach boys, men, or entire families, but is there any special way you feel that your books connect with boys, men?
Mm-hmm. Well, my books are adult fiction. They're written for Christian men, which I have discovered doesn't mean that women don't enjoy them, because most Christian readers are women at this point in time. Hopefully you and I can change that. But But my books are adult fiction written for men, but I've written them with a young reader in mind, because when I was 9, 10, or 11 years old, I was not reading middle grade fiction or YA. I was reading adult fiction.
Yeah.
And I know young people are going to read my books, so I've written them with them, and I've written the books with them in mind. You know, the younger reader will probably latch on to the action adventure story and maybe the quest for truth and those kinds of themes, whereas some of the other layers in the stories, the adults are going to enjoy the adult conflict and the symbolism and some of the deeper themes and the deeper questions that are explored as the adventure unfolds.
I would imagine that you're hoping that your books will help sharpen the faith of the reader.
Yeah, I hope so. And as I told my daughter when she published her first book, you don't know if that book is written for one person or for 10 or for 1,000, right? We're writing what God's put on our heart, and He's going to use it the way He intends to use it. You know, the outcomes are up to Him. Yep. But yeah, I hope my books, you know, have a huge impact for the kingdom. But it's my job to do the writing and the publishing to the best of my ability. It's His job to handle the outcomes, right?
Sure.
But, oh man,
Yeah.
do I hope that it thrills the hearts of lots and lots of readers? I do. I really do.
Definitely. One author said that he writes for an audience of one.
Mm-hmm.
So that one person will share it with whoever he wants to.
Right.
Sounds like my voice is going to go out.
No.
So do you see your writing as a ministry, as a mission, or
absolutely. Yeah. As a Christian writer, everything you do is ministry, right?
Should be.
Yeah.
Should be.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get to read much Christian fiction? Writing takes up a lot of time, as does the heavy lifting on a 4-acre farm.
Yeah.
But do you get
earning
to
a
read
living
much?
and running a publishing business on the side? Yeah.
Those kinds of nuances can drain you.
Well, you know, I've had that problem most of my adult life. I've been a pretty busy guy working in a family business, but so I haven't been able to read the thousands and thousands of print books that I did when I was younger. But I discovered audiobooks in the 80s, and I've always done a lot of driving in the business I'm in.
Yeah.
So I listen to audiobooks voraciously. I go through a lot of audiobooks. So luckily I'm able to keep reading that way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, where's all the thrilling Christian fiction written for men, right? and even fewer of those great books are on audio. So it's, come on, guys, put your books in audio.
Right. Let's get busy.
No, in conversations that I've had, at Christian writers conferences and that type of thing, that there's a hesitancy to be too overt about the Christian message. I made the decision for my writing, and everybody has to make this decision, for their own and for what their mission is, in co-creating with God, what that mission is for them. For me, my mission was to speak truth and to ask the hard questions and the big questions in the context of a great story. So mine's very overt. It doesn't mean everybody's has to be. Just as one of my favorite preachers when I became a believer, one of my early mentors was J. Vernon McGee. If you remember him. Yeah. And he always said that,
dearly beloved.
That's right. Yeah. He always said that there are a multitude of denominations because there are a multitude of personalities. And what speaks to one person may not speak to the next. And I think the same is true of the fiction. But if the fiction's written from a Christian worldview and glorifies God, I think that's our job. I think our job is I think that's adequate. I don't think everybody's books have to preach the gospel. I think they maybe just need, some books are just meant to show what a Christian life can look like without being too preachy. But some people want to be preached to. Some people are looking for answers, right? So I think there's a book for everybody and everybody for a book.
Well, I didn't really consider it as I was writing. I let the characters go where they
right. You're a discovery writer
went.
too.
Yeah. That's going to be one of my questions here in a bit.
Yeah.
But my main character, it's a strong believer, is walking on a track with she's walking on a track with another female who's not been very successful for the last 30-some years at attracting a mate.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I think maybe I've been looking at the wrong gender. Maybe I should try the other one.
Ouch.
So how else could my character react?
Right.
So and she kind of dogs her for a while. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of similarities, all Christian authors, mainly because every author has an audience he's trying to reach. He has his skill set, his self that he's trying to be true to. Then he has to be true to the editor, and then the publisher might require something else. But a Christian fiction author or a Christian writer has another level that he has to be true to.
That's right.
And that makes all the difference.
That sure does. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and my first series, the Seekers series, is literally a story about finding the Bible. So it's going to be overt. I have other series that I've been writing that the stories are not about that. So it's not so much of the Bible. However, because what I write is fiction that illustrates the battle between the seen and the unseen worlds, right? And the battle in the unseen world between the forces of good and evil. That's a theme that's always going to run through my books. So unlike some who might just write great stories that illustrate Christian life, my stories will be a lot more overt and will ask very direct questions about the spiritual questions, about spiritual truths.
Yeah, we alluded to this question, so let's just get to it. Are there times when you're writing and you're going along thinking you're going from A to B, and all of a sudden your character makes a left turn and goes to C first?
Oh my, yeah. Well, I'm totally a discovery writer. When I sit down to write, I know what the big story is that I'm writing, but I have no idea what each scene looks like or how the story plays out. So yeah, and as you write characters, and I'm sure you know this, they become real people to you, and for me, I'm actually seeing the scene in my mind's eye. I'm very visual, so I see the scene playing out visually before my eyes. And when I'm writing, I'm just recording what my imagination, the movie my imagination is showing, and in doing that, the characters who are real people make the decisions that person would naturally make. Yeah, and a lot of times those decisions are a surprise. You don't. I've not foreseen them. I still remember I was writing the end of the book 2 of my series, and one of the characters made a handed one-line comment that just made me stop dead in my tracks. And where did that come from? I didn't see that coming. Yeah, that's just amazing, and it completely changed the trajectory of the next book. Just that one line that came out of not from not planned. Yeah, it came from somewhere else. Somewhere else. So it's when that happens, it's just the whole process is such a joy, right? The whole process of co-creating with the Holy Spirit and with the Creator of the universe, co-creating with God, as Alan Arnold would say. Do you know Alan Arnold?
No, I don't.
You should search the name Alan Arnold. He writes books for Christian authors, and he also a daily newsletter for Christian authors. It's a wonderful inspiration. And he says that we as Christian authors are co-creating with the Creator of the universe, right? And having experienced what that's like, especially as a discovery writer, it's just magic. It's an amazing experience.
Are there instances when you kind of have a hard time finding the words or the next line, and a verse maybe that comes along kind of bolster you?
The thing that I have the hardest time with is, I have a hard time coming up with the words when I'm writing. It's when I'm not writing and I think about writing that the doubts, the enemy, start working at me like, yeah, you're no good, and you don't know what you're going to do with this story, and it's not going to be good, and that whole imposter syndrome starts. There's a barrier to actually doing the writing, but once I'm in the writing, it just, God really blesses the ability just to write words and not get stuck on the words.
Right. Yeah. Is there a lesson you feel God has taught you through your writing life?
There have been a lot of them. All of them personal. Most of them are highly personal.
Understand.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah. I've processed a lot of the as an atheist for decades in my adult life, there was a lot of wrong turns and a lot of wrong roads.
Yeah.
I would say, of the things that I'm comfortable talking about publicly, the biggest one is sometimes people look back at their lives and say, what a waste. And I particularly, the life I lived as an atheist, can look back at my life and waste. What a terrible thing I did. Taking the talent, from the verse of the talents, taking the talent gave me and burying it in the soil, and not just burying it in the soil, but using it like the prodigal used it.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of grief about the past that can enter into your life when when you look back at your life. One of the things my writing has taught me is that has to tell a story that might resonate with people who need to hear that story from somebody who understands where they are. A lot of Christian authors are lifelong Christians. So the stories they're prepared to tell, can be very powerful and very important, but they don't know darkness. Not the way people who lived the life that I've lived. Okay, darkness is something I know in a way that somebody who's never lived that life can know it. So I'm able to speak to people and tell stories and ask and answer some questions that the others who have not hadn't. So, perhaps that all wasn't wasted. That was all just preparation, right? Or at the very least, what Satan meant for evil, God's going to use.
Yes. Well, you mentioned that as an atheist, you took a lot of wrong turns. It makes me think of I can't tell you where it comes from the Bible, but so the father tells one son, go into the vineyard and work. Yes, Father, I will, but he doesn't. He tells the other son, go to the vineyard and work. He says, no, I'm not going to do that. But has second thoughts, and he goes into the vineyard and works. So which son did the will of the Father?
Right.
And on top of that, I'd say it's not just atheists that make
Oh, no, absolutely not.
I accepted Christ when I was 11 and worked on it for a little bit and then chucked it, but it came back around stronger.
Good.
So, yes, yeah, definitely. Can you give me one sentence to convince a skeptical man to read your book?
One sentence.
That's kind of a toughie, too.
Yeah. A skeptical man meaning spiritually skeptical or the book.
I don't think it matters really. It's just open-ended. I talking to Michael Swigert, spent I think 18 years in prison. One sentence to convince a skeptical. He said, "Go out and buy it and read it."
There you go.
I would mess around.
Say, one sentence. There is a power that wanders the world, seeking those he might kill.
Oh.
And if you don't know that power exists, and if you're not, if you don't know, if you don't have the armor of faith, you will be destroyed.
Definitely.
Yeah. There is the unseen world, and if you don't understand that battle, you're just a victim, right?
Right. You're an ox being led to slaughter.
Yep.
Not having no idea that's where you're headed.
Right.
Yeah. Is there any particular character you write that you relate to? Is that you in between the covers?
Well, yes, because it's all coming from my mind. It's all me, right? In one way or another. But
in one way or another.
They're very distinct personalities, and they become personalities of their own.
Yeah.
So no, there's not a character that is me, but characters.
I'm sure. Yeah, I feel the same way. They all come from the same foundation. Is there a key message you would like readers to take away from your books?
And that you can find the truth. And there's only one place to find truth, the real truth, right? Yeah.
Right. So what's J.A. Webb?
Well, I've published, of course, Fragments book 1 of the series and Inheritance book 2 of the series, just May. The third book of the series should be out this year. I'm working on that one right now and in the final stages. The fourth of the series will be coming out next year. But there is another half dozen books in the same story world that are already written that will continue to come.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where can folks find your books and connect with you?
Published, wide. The ebook and print is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere that you can buy books. My books are narrated by Stefan Rudnicki. He was my favorite narrator for decades before he started narrating my books. Published anywhere in the world that you buy an audiobook, you'll find it there. Downpour.com is the best place to find the audiobook. They're my publisher. There are things that I like the way they do business. So if you're not familiar with Downpour, I definitely would give that.
Check them out.
Yeah.
And is there any particular way you engage with your readers?
I have a newsletter. If you go to my website, author.com, you can get connected with my newsletter. I send out a newsletter every couple weeks. I during the winter months when my professional life isn't so I do a bi-weekly book review on the blog newsletter. During the summer it's a little bit hit and miss whether that I can get those reviews done and those blog posts done, but constantly searching for fiction that Christian men can love, and bringing what I find to my readership so they by it.
Is there a final message you'd like to leave with the audience as we wind this up?
I would just say that as Christians, sometimes we're so discouraged in our culture that we pull back, right? And we take refuge in our Christian comfortable. That's not what God called us to do. He called us to go, and that out is among people who are not like us, who don't believe truth into the world. And in particular, one of the things as Christians we've turned our backs on is the power of story. Maybe TV, movies. According to 65% of, unfortunately, only 10% of them know what a biblical worldview is. But if 50% of our country is Christian, then why are not half of those TV shows and half of the books being published every day? Why are they great Christian stories? And it's because we as Christians power of story in those media, and it's time for Christians to do what God told us to do, is go out, and that's not just go out and use the power of story to battle for our culture. Everybody is looking for solutions they see in the world around them, and those solutions are spiritual. And if people don't know, how can they apply the truth, and how can they culture that you and I both agree that need to be, and I think most people agree that there are, but the answer to those problems, the solution, is spiritual. Telling the truth, not just as people, but in most powerful media, and the power of story. There are in a story you never get across an exposition, right? Definitely. So using it more powerfully, I think that's one of the things that they've in our churches and in the Christian community.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for the schedule and working through our technical issues and difficulties. Spend time with my audience. We do appreciate you so much. Could prayer.
Thank you, Mike. I'd appreciate that.
Just thank you so much for men like J.A. that put their beliefs on paper, to others to take his experiences, good or whatever they might be, he's shared. And we just ask that you continue to bless him, send him good storylines and exciting that men, boys, and family, people in general can relate to. Just give you all the praise, Lord, for the skills that, as we all have gifts, and right of them, we just pray that more people exercise that gift and more readers read the results of that gift. Things in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. I've really enjoyed the conversation. This has been fun.
It's been fun for me, and I've certainly enjoyed meeting you too. I know we could probably spend the rest of the day talking about a 4-acre farm and you've got going on that you only hinted at, and we didn't.
There's only so much time.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye. Guys, for the video glitch that happened way through the interview, but thank goodness. But holy moly, what a powerful conversation with Jay, a man whose life and work remind us entertainment, it can be ministry. From his atheism to crafting thrilling stories that speak to young readers, Webb is using the written word to shine light in places. His passion for truth is changing culture head on, and for portraying the unseen battle of good and evil makes his stories their soul stirrers. If you're a story to tell, take his advice to heart. Tell needs your voice. And if you haven't checked yet, I encourage you to do so. Approach to writing lets characters breathe. And thanks for joining me today on the Wordsmith podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe episode with someone who needs to hear it. Keep reading, and I'll see you next time. This is Mike Baines.